The President. Good morning. We'll continue with the motion debate. The Undersecretary for Transport and Housing. President, Mr. Tommy CHEUNG has moved a motion and 7 other members has moved amendments. And some 20 other members have also spoken yesterday. I thank the members for speaking on the motion and expressing their concerns on the problems faced by the middle class. Every member will speak to an extent the housing problem to the middle class. So I will first respond on that. As I said in the opening remarks, the government is determined and serious in resolving a housing problem in Hong Kong. On the one hand, we set out the clear objectives and implementation strategies, and we also come up with clear housing supply targets. We want to tackle the problem at root. We want every stratum of the society can lead a peaceful life. And we are seeing our efforts yielding initial results, and some of the members are also recognizing our efforts. We also like to appeal to the legislators and members in supporting the government to identify housing sites. They, of course, ask the government to do more. We will go all out to do that. Some members moved amendments to suggest that there's a tax reduction allowance for first-time property purchase. As we said in the past, when there is still a stringent supply in the housing market, if we are to introduce such measures, that will not help increase in supply. Conversely, that will also trigger more housing department jacking up further the property and rental prices, and that will be counterproductive, especially when the landlords know that the tenants will get subsidy from the government, then they will increase the rentals, and the tenants will get no concrete help at all. So in order to resolve the property prices hike because of the tight supply, while increasing housing supply is the solution. There is no other way to do it. If we just beat around the bush, then we cannot focus in resolving the problems to the middle class. The HOS and other subsidized sale flats are the way to help them get home ownership. And the government has come up with results in supplying subsidized sale flats. HS at the end of 2014 has pre-sold 5,800 flats, and this year the HA will sell 2,000 HOS flats, and it will increase the income limit from $49,000 to $52,000 for the white form owners. And the HA will also supply 600 subsidized sales flats. And in 2018, if everything goes smoothly, we hope that 4,400 HOS flats will be pre-sold. The HA will make preparation for HOS flats this next year. For example, they will come up with the leases and also the DMCs. Some people think that the quota for the white formers should be increased. In coming up with a ratio of white form to green form, we will have to make a balance. We have to respond to needs of the white formers, but at the same time, we have to consider if we can provide homes or HOS to the PRH tenants who can afford them, then that would be good. It will help address their housing needs, and we can take over the PRH units. In 2014, the green and white form ratio is 60-40, and in 2016 and 2017, the ratio will be adjusted to 50-50. So more white farmers will be allotted HOS flats. We will be flexible. We would also be using the unused quota of the green farmers and allocate them to the white farmers. Some members also said that there should be another ladder of housing, the sandwich class housing between the HOS and the private market. Well, we have to devote a lot of resources in building housing, including manpower, money, and so on. So with limited resources, we have to set priorities. We have to give priority to allocating PRH units to those in need, and also help those who can afford private housing to purchase their home ownership scheme. We will increase the supply of subsidized sale flats. We will try to increase the turnover of such flats that can help us rebuild the housing ladder. We would also increase the supply of private residential flats, and we will also launch the demand-side management measures in time that would help the steady development of the private residential market. Based on their own affordability, people can try to meet their home ownership aspirations. The government has no plans to relaunch the sandwich class housing scheme. Mr. Jeffrey Lam and Mr. Hon Chow talked about increasing the ad valorem stamp duty and the harsh measure, so-called, that will be an extra burden to those who want to have their own homes. I understand these difficulties, but these demand-side management measures may not take care of the individual cases. Well, the aim is to cool the exuberant property market, to suppress the speculation and overseas demand. On the 4th of November, we have standardized the ad valorem stamp duty to 15%. We know that the LegCo has set up a subcommittee to scrutinize the legislation, and you have the chance to scrutinize the subsidiary legislation. I must emphasize that this measure is to take care of the first home buyers. These people will just have to pay the old ad valorem stamp duty. Many members also mentioned about the high prices of land sales recently. I would like to say that there are changes in the property market, and there are always risks. The land prices may be very high, but then the property prices may not be very high in the future. There have been some examples in the past. As I said, Hong Kong is affected by the external environment, including the ultra-low interest rate worldwide and also the quantitative easing worldwide. So what Hong Kong can do is that we try to tackle the problem, the root of the problem of imbalance in demand and supply. We should work together. We should identify land, and we should rebuild the housing ladder. I also agree with some members' views that if we are to strengthen the middle class, we should provide jobs to them. They should have a promotion career prospects, and we should develop our economy. We should develop value-added industries. The government has been doing a lot in building infrastructure projects. We build the XRL, the Hong Kong-Macau Bridge. We also support the AA in coming up with a 3-runway system. And our overall objective is to strengthen Hong Kong's financial, logistics, trade, and tourism industry. If these industries can continue to thrive, the middle class is bound to benefit. Say, take 3R as an example. If that is commissioned, that 120,000 direct jobs will be created and 160,000 indirect jobs will be created. And that's much more than the dual 3-runway system. And 3/4 of those working in the airport island are the professionals and middle ranking positions. If we don't build the 3RS, then we will deal a blow to Hong Kong's various industries, including retail, logistics, trade, finance, etc. Now, infrastructure projects can help us expand our business. We can also strengthen our logistics status as a logistic hub. We can have a bigger pie, and Hong Kong people can more easily go overseas to have travel, to study, to do business, and that's also very affordable to Hong Kong. And this is a very major part of the life of the middle class. Some other members asked that we should improve the transport facilities for remote areas so that the middle class can purchase homes or live in remote areas, and they can commute to work easily to the urban areas. In this regard, in September 2014, we have announced the 2014 railway development strategy, and by 2031 we'll finish 7 projects. Northern Link, Hutong Station, Kowloon East Line, Hong Shou Kyu Station, South Island Line, West, and also North Island Line, etc. So when all these projects are commissioned, the total length of the railway will be increased from 270 kilometers in 2012, covering 70% of the population, to over 300 kilometers in 2031, covering 75% of the population in Hong Kong, and also 85% of the job, where the jobs are. And we would also support the NGAs in Hong Kong, including the northwestern new territories. We'll release to potential in these areas. We'll promote economic activities there. And after the railways have been expanded, it will cover more areas and provide more railway services to Hong Kong people. We're traveling time will be shortened, and people can have a easier time traveling around Hong Kong. The railway infrastructure can help promote our economic development and also meet with the needs of the middle class. Well, but of course, not only the middle class will benefit. Many railways and mass transport networks will be further developed so that Hong Kong people can commute to work and study more easily, and the middle class can have affordable, convenient transport services. Some members highlighted the problem of inadequate car parking spaces. In the Hong Kong Planning Standards and Guidelines sets out the indicators for car parking spaces in housing estates. So if the housing estates is remote from the railway network, it will have more car parking spaces. We are now reviewing the system. We would give priority to commercial vehicles. Now, lastly, I would like to say something about the aim of the motion, which is to establish a middle-class commission. Whether such a commission will be established, well, even if this is a case where we don't have such a commission, well, for the housing and transport problems raised by the members, the THB will deal with those, and we are obliged to do that. So I speak.
I now call upon Mr. Frankie Yick to move an amendment to the motion. Mr. Frankie Yick. President, I move that Mr. Tommy CHEUNG's motion be amended. I now propose a question to you, and that is that the amendment moved by Mr. Frankie Yick to Mr. Tommy CHEUNG's motion be passed. I now put the question to you as stated. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority respectively of the two groups of members present. Members have already been informed as Mr. Frankie Yick's amendment has been passed. Dr. Lo Wai-kwok and Dr. KK Kwok have withdrawn their amendments. Mr. Hui Chi-fung, as Mr. Frankie Yick's amendment has been passed, you may now move your revised amendment. Thank you, Mr. Leung. President, I move that Mr. Tommy CHEUNG's motion as amended by Mr. Frankie Yick be further amendment by my revised amendment. I now propose a question to you, and that is that Mr. Ted Hui's amendment to Mr. Tommy CHEUNG's motion as amended by Mr. Frankie Yick be passed. I now put the question to you as stated. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. division is claimed, the bell will be rung for 5 minutes.
開始表決。
Voting begins. Please verify your votes. Voting is closed. The results are displayed. From the functional constituencies, 22 present, 8 for, 13 against. From the geographical constituencies, 21 present, 7 for, 7 against, 7 abstentions. I think the question is not agreed by majority respectively of each of the two groups of members from FCs and GCs present. I declare the amendment negatived. Ms. Sari Lee. President, I move that in the event of further divisions being claimed at this meeting in respect of the motion debate on actively studying the establishment of a middle-class commission, this council shall proceed to the division after the division bell has been rung for 1 minute. I now propose the question to you, and that is that the motion moved by Ms. Sari Lee be passed. I now put the question to the vote. Those in favor, please raise your hands. Those against, please raise your hands. I think the question is agreed by majority respectively of each of the two groups of members, those returned by FCs and GCs who are present. I declare the amendment passed. I order that on further divisions being claimed at the meeting in respect of the motion debate, the council shall proceed to the division after the bell has been rung for 1 minute. Members have already been informed. As Mr. Ted Hui's amendment has been passed, Mr. KWOK Wai-keung, Dr. Elizabeth QUAT, and Mr. Michael TIEN has withdrawn their arrangements. And Dr. KWOK Ka-ki, you may now move your amendment. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amendment moved by Dr. KWOK Ka Wai-keung be passed. I now put the question to you as stated. Those in favor, please raise your hands. Those against, please raise your hands. And I think the question is agreed by majority respectively of each of the two groups of members who are present. I declare the motion passed. Dr. Elizabeth QUAT. As the amendment of Mr. Frankie YICK, Mr. KWOK Wai-keung have been passed, you may now move your revised amendment. President, I move that Mr. Tommy CHEUNG's amendment as amended by Mr. Frankie YICK and Mr. KWOK Wai-keung be further amended by my revised amendment. I now propose a question to you, and that is that Dr. QUAT's amendment to Mr. Tommy CHEUNG's motion as amended by Mr. Frankie YICK and Mr. KWOK Wai-keung be passed. I now put the question to you as stated. Those in favor, please raise your hands. Those against, please raise your hands. I think the question is agreed by majority respectively of each of the two groups of members who are present. I declare the amendment passed. Mr. Michael TIEN, as the amendments of Mr. Frankie YICK, Mr. KWOK Wai-keung, and Dr. Elizabeth QUAT have been passed, you may now move your revised amendment. President, I move that Mr. Tommy CHEUNG's motion as amended by Mr. Frankie YICK, Mr. KWOK Wai-keung, and Dr. Elizabeth QUAT be further amended by my revised amendment. I now propose a question to you, and that is that Mr. Michael TIEN's amendment to Mr. Tommy CHEUNG's motion as amended by Mr. Frankie YICK, Mr. KWOK Wai-keung, and Dr. Elizabeth QUAT be passed. I now put the question to you as stated. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. A division is claimed. The bell will be rung for 1 minute.
開始表決。
Voting begins. Please verify your votes. Voting is closed. The results are displayed. From the FCs, 24 present, 17 for, 1 against, 5 abstentions. From the geographical constituencies, 21 present, 10 for, 2 against, 9 abstentions. I think the question is not agreed by majority respectively of each of the 2 groups of members who are present. I declare the amendment negatived. Mr. Tommy CHEUNG, you still have 2 minutes and 42 seconds to reply. The debate will come to a close after Mr. Tommy CHEUNG has replied. Mr. Tommy CHEUNG. Thank you, President. I'd like to thank the 7 members for making amendments to my motion and the 22 members who have spoken. We have very diverse views towards the middle class, and like me, the public might be somewhat confused. The middle class issue is indeed complicated. Even though some of the suggestions raised by members today are controversial, at least we agree that the middle class are a pillar of our society, and the government must respond to their needs. This way, we can strengthen the middle class segment instead of vice versa to foster healthy development of Hong Kong. And some people feel that the definition of middle class should not be based solely on income. I think that the key is to tackle the downward mobility of the middle class or the impending M-shaped economy. We realize that the poverty gap is getting wider and wider, and this would lead to further instabilities to the market, especially for young people who lack upward mobility, and that would lead to more and more complaints. The proposed middle class commission, as for the methodology, composition, working goals, etc., I remain open. I hope that it can be empowered to a reasonable extent, or else it would be rendered meaningless. I hope that the issue will be further debated for the current and next term of the government. Hopefully members can support my amended motion. And I now put the question to you, and that is that the motion moved by Mr. Tommy CHEUNG as amended by Mr. Frankie YICK, Dr. Lo, Mr. Keung, and Dr. Elizabeth QUAT be passed. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Dr. Fernando Cheung claims a division. The bell will be rung for 1 minute. Voting begins. Please verify your votes. Voting is closed. The results are displayed. From the functional constituencies, 24 present, 21 for, 2 against. From the geographical constituencies, 22 present, 15 for, 3 against, 4 abstentions. The question is agreed by majority respectively of each of the 2 groups of members present. I declare the motion passed.
Debates on motions with no legislative effect. The motion debate on review